Ladies and gentlemen, this is part 2 of our interview with commercial harvester Ida Hall. Ida, please tell us, what year did you get your first license and what kind of a license was it?
Well, it would have been in 1973, and I first worked on the water gill netting, the monofilament gill net that my brother James had given me, and that was how it all got started. And first time I ever successfully set a gill net, I learned to set it in the creek, and with my cousin Hal's expertise, taught me how to set it with the tide and the winds, and I caught $54 worth of striped bass, and I was immediately hooked.
Wow.
For 30 minutes of work, I was impressed.
I bet. No, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to I'm going to move around, whatever. These are some of Ida's crab pots, and this is a boat that she used, the one that's sitting upright. For how many years, Ida, did you use that boat?
At least 10.
At least 10, okay. And that was how that's how you harvested your gill nets, is in that boat?
Absolutely. Well, my mentor was my cousin Hal, but so many of the watermen back in the 70s, when gill netting became more popular, were working from flat bottom wooden skiffs.
Mm-hmm.
The flat bottom boat was just easier to work out of fishing a gill net, and that's what I saw them do. So I figured if they could do it, why couldn't I? And the flat bottom boat is not as seaworthy, or it smacks on the waves and all. So you learn how to work it, and that's what I used, and that's what most of the watermen used for decades.
Sure. And what about crabbing? Do you use a flat bottom boat to crab as well?
Well, I would use the same boat to work all my gear even when I started crabbing, because I was using the gill net a lot to catch bait, to catch the menhaden to bait my pots with, and I would go out early and fish the net, have the bait on the boat, and go and fish and harvest the crabs from the crab pots. So it was, once you went out in one boat, that was really only had one boat.
Exactly. That's all you needed.
Yeah.
So you have been a licensee now since about 1973. You have seen a lot of changes, Ida. My gosh. The bay, is our bay getting cleaner? You mentioned when we were talking about the Keepone spill impacted the fisheries here.
Absolutely. That was in 1975, and I was still gill netting then, and actually catching a lot of bluefish, which were one of the fish that had been impacted by the Allied Chemical Company disposing of Keepone in the James River. It had an impact of fishing even on the Chesapeake Bay in Northumberland County, farther north away from the James. We were having problem marketing fish, and certainly we had already seen the moratorium on the striped bass, and there were even a couple of oil spills in the 70s, at least one in the 70s and one in the 80s. So, these were pretty devastating. You never expect to have this happen on the Chesapeake Bay. You hear about it on the West Coast back then, but
right. Yeah, we've got a lot to be thankful for, and it takes a lot of people to get this bay cleaned and back to health, which
absolutely. Certainly with the loss of the bay grasses, that was something that I can remember in the 50s and 60s, that you couldn't get out of the creek without having to stop and untangle grass from around your propeller. And by the time I moved here, came for a couple of weeks and ended up staying here, in the 70s, we were starting to see the grasses diminish, and that increased the erosion, and it impacted the water quality and the species of fish and, and crabs and all.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have many women at William & Mary come out here and say, okay, we want to learn more about what you do because we think we would like to be a commercial harvester? Or do you work with William & Mary on research projects at all, your alma mater?
Well, no, I don't have a lot of women come out here and beg me to teach them to do what I do because they think it's great and that's what they want to do. But back in, I guess it was in the mid-'80s, I went back to William & Mary to take some classes in archaeology. I attended their field school, which was actually being held at the Virginia Institute of Marine Science in 1986. And late after that, I got hired with some of the other students to go on a dig in Emporia. And and then I followed that up with some classes in '87 and went on another dig down in Suffolk. But what I did in '86 and again in '87 was I took some of these students who were there who didn't have a clue what a crab pot was, a gill net, and I invited them down for a picnic. But I told them, I said, we'd have some other food, but you're gonna have to go out and catch your own crabs and fish and an oyster. And so that's what we did.
How wonderful.
And I enjoyed it as much. I probably enjoyed it more than they did, but you know, it was an education, and we, you know, both learned from each other because they had a lot they could teach me, and you know, I just wanted them to know that this way of life exists even today in the 21st century and back then in the 20th century. So
absolutely. Well, I think you'll probably be hearing from VIMS after this. I think they need to bring some more of their students out here. Well, not just VIMS, but the college.
Right. Yeah.
Because it is, Ida. It is a way of life that people are just not participating in anymore, and it's very hard, but it's also very necessary because we enjoy fish, we enjoy the bay, we enjoy the bounty of what gets brought in.
Right, and I mean, I've been very blessed and very fortunate that I had family that had waterfront property where I could have this experience and learn about it. This day and time, the younger generation aren't as privileged, I think, to be able to own waterfront property and to work from there, and it's a whole new world. And it's also harder for younger kids to get into the industry. It's more expensive, and you know, they have to realize that it's not a quick and easy. It's still physically demanding, and they have to like being out in the elements. It's not always a beautiful, sunny, pleasant day. It gets cold, it gets rough, and rain and wind. So
exactly. Well, Ida, I look forward to coming back and talking with you again. Thank you so much for participating in the VMRC Women's History Project.
Thank you.